If you ever come near my family again, I will kill you.
Wow. Invincible Season 3 is so good. And I think it really gets into the core of what Invincible is really about. See, on the outside, Invincible is a superhero show. It's a show about people in costumes who go around and save the day. But in reality, Invincible is a show about being a person and the messiness of the human condition. And this is something that's seen in Robert Kirkman's other works. The Walking Dead, for example, is a huge example of this, where the show is, on the outside, a show about zombies and the zombie apocalypse, but the show is more about human relationships in this post-apocalyptic zombie world. Black Mirror is another example of a show that I think most people see as a show about technology and how it can be bad, but the show is mostly about people and how people use that technology. I love Black Mirror, I love sociology, and Black Mirror is a sociology show, not a phone bad show. I think one of the things that makes Invincible so compelling is how it handles very complex subjects that a lot of other shows don't really tackle, mostly because they're hard subjects to deal with. You have betrayal, morality, forgiveness, and not just like, oh, I forgive you, but like true redemption in situations where you feel like a person has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Whether the means justify the ends or the other way around, it just deals with all of these subjects that kind of make up what it is to be a person and the messiness of who we are as people and why, even though we're so messy, we're worth saving. And it's really kind of pretty. And not just pretty, it's very realistic. In fact, I think it's more realistic than The Boys, a show that came out around the same time on the same network dealing with the same thing as Invincible. The Boys tends to be very pessimistic and like showing the worst of what happens in a superpowered society. If there is a superhero, he is a bad person. There's no like nuance there. And not just like how it could be, if that makes sense. This video here by Pointless Hub kind of like summarizes how I feel about The Boys, even though I do think it's a great show. Now, I actually wanted to drop Invincible sometime before season 2 came out, mostly because I got tired of waiting for season 2 to come out. So I went to just kind of looked up spoilers for what happens in the comics, and I wasn't a fan of a lot of the things that I saw in the show. Certain redemption arcs I wasn't buying. There was the theme of some unwanted pregnancies that I found it to be a bit too reminiscent of things that happened in The Walking Dead that kind of like I didn't enjoy there either. And it kind of just put this image of the show in my head where it was just people doing bad things and we like them anyway. And spoilers, I was very wrong about that. I shouldn't have like looked at these things without context because I think that I was misunderstanding what these things were about. These moments in context are kind of what gives Invincible like its charm, I think. And season 3 kind of continues this very charming, morally gray take on the superhero genre.
One of the major plot points of season 3 is the argument between Cecil and Mark. After the Guardians almost lose to Doc Seismic, Cecil sends in Darkwing along with a group of Reanimen. The Reanimen, of course, being the reanimated corpses that Dr. Sinclair made in season 1 by experimenting on innocent people, Will's boyfriend being one of them. And if you don't remember this version of Darkwing, he's the successor to the previous Darkwing who got... He was sent to prison in season 2 because he, like, killed criminals or something. Off screen, by the way. So, like, very different levels of bad guy here. Anyway, Mark is really pissed about this and flies off to confront Cecil about the whole thing, which leads to...
I will kill you.
And here we are.
These episodes really kind of tell you the exact kind of show that Invincible is, the kind of show that Invincible was, and the kind of show that Invincible will be going forward. I think these episodes were so good. So before we hop into the Invincible debate, I just want to talk a bit about right and wrong, specifically what morality even is. If you're not interested in this, just go ahead and skip to this timestamp. There have been philosophical debates about good and evil dating back to literally the beginning of civilization. Looking at you, Plato. Some people, like Cecil or Jeremy Bentham, define doing the right thing as whatever brings the most happiness to the most people. More religious people tend to say that whatever their holy book says is good. But personally, I think it really boils down to one question. Is it beneficial to your community? See, when early humans were still hunter-gatherers, and probably long before that, having a social structure wasn't just nice, it was the difference between life and death. If you helped your tribe, you increased everyone's chances of survival, including your own. Doing things that were beneficial to the community, like helping with labor or defending the tribe from attacks, made it more likely for you to be accepted into the group and gaining all the benefits that come with living in a society. And over time, this survival instinct became what we know as morality. Generally, things that are considered good good are things that benefit your community in some way. The idea is that these behaviors strengthen the group, making survival easier and life generally less terrible. On the other hand, things that we consider evil tend to be things that harm the community. Of course, a big part of morality is that it is relative to what you consider your community.
A really popular belief online is that stealing from small businesses is generally a terrible thing to do, but stealing from a large corporation is fine. This is because A, stealing hurts Walmart way less than Uncle Jim's corner store, and B, because people don't consider wealthy CEOs as part of their community, and therefore they're less concerned with their misfortunes.
In the case of Invincible, Mark views the Earth and the people of Earth as his community, and therefore he acts in Earth's best interest. However, Omni-Man views Viltrum as his community, and he acts in Viltrum's best interest. To him, what he is doing is a moral good until he became a member of Earth's community. This is why he became so conflicted. Sometimes based on a difference in perspective or a difference in information will lead people who have the same best interest to view the same thing in different ways. This is a huge reason why politics is such a heated topic. But yeah, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Now back to Invincible.
And I want you to keep this in mind when thinking of the debate between Cecil and Mark. From Mark's perspective, the ends don't justify the means. Killing is wrong, and that's that. There is no nuance to it. Darkwind killed people. It doesn't matter if it was for revenge or for the greater good or for any reason. He killed people, and that's wrong. At this point in the story, Mark's unnuanced, kind of black and white thinking seems to be a kind of like defense mechanism given all of the things he's gone through. Even though he's probably the strongest person on the planet, he's still a teenager.
And given that Mark is so young and really doesn't have that much of a perspective on like what right and wrong actually is, it's probably for the best that he has this like kind of bare bones morality structure. He doesn't really have time mid-fight to the death to consider, maybe this guy has a point. You know, it's like he kind of has to just like fight to survive and move on. And by not killing people, it kind of allows him to, you know, put more thought into whether this person, you know, deserves to live or was right or had a point or whatever.
We are literally talking about a 19-year-old, someone who's not even old enough to drink, literally deciding like the trajectory with which the world kind of goes in, you know? And while much less extreme, this is also something that was explored in The Legend of Korra. One of the major themes in that series is that Korra was the Avatar and therefore is an authority figure. But just because you're an authority figure does not mean you're always right. And apparently she blows up the world or something. So I was an avid Korra defender, and this is just... Cecil, on the other hand, is someone that believes that the ends justify the means. His only interest is saving as many people as possible. It is simple mathematics for him. If this were the trolley problem, where there's a train coming and there's two roads, if you don't do anything, it's gonna hit a group of 4 people and kill them, but if you divert it, it will change and only hit 1 person. It's like, what do you do? Cecil would, without hesitation, pull the lever. He probably wouldn't like it, but he would pull the lever. Mark just doesn't understand this. If he were in the trolley problem, he probably wouldn't pull the lever at all, would try to fly off to save them, only to realize that he can't break the ropes, and then everyone ends up dying anyway.
And I think this is on full display in episode 5, in which the crime boss Titan, who we first saw in season 1, asks Invincible to help him break a criminal out of prison in order to keep the peace with an even bigger crime syndicate. And instead of even hearing Titan out about the situation, he just wants to put him in prison. You know, it's very much like, you broke the law, you're going to prison, you know? Instead of like actually thinking, well, actually he's doing a net good for most people, you know?
Titan is no saint, but through his actions, he made the city a better place for himself, his family, and the people of the community.
He's the kind of person who understands that you have to get your hands dirty to do good things sometimes.
But all Invincible can see are the crimes that he committed. He'd rather have Titan thrown in prison and not running the city, which would probably just lead to a power vacuum that would be filled by someone much worse than Titan. Wow, that is another thing that was covered in the Avatar series. So in the end, Mark is kind of outsmarted and tricked into furthering Titan's interests, which is probably for the best. Mark being outsmarted really goes to show that although he is probably one of the strongest people on the planet, he's still very much a teenager with a lot of growing to do.
So going back to the debate between Cecil and Mark, who was actually right?
In my opinion, they both kind of fucked up here. On Mark's end, he kind of goes on the offensive too quickly. He kind of resorted to aggression and shows of force before he actually, like, talked to Cecil. And honestly, I doubt that they would have come to an agreement, but the show of force kind of puts Cecil on the defensive, which leads to how Cecil fucked up. Cecil went on the defensive too early. Instead of trying to talk to Mark and say, hey, we'll figure something out, he immediately tries to subdue him and try to kind of like put him in his place, which was a terrible strategy considering how strong Mark is. But again, Cecil was scared.
I don't threaten.
No, because you're scaring the
out of me right now.
He was legitimately afraid of what Mark would do and what he could do. In his eyes, keeping Mark in check is his way of making sure that Omni-Man doesn't happen again. The problem is there wasn't trust between the two. If Cecil would have trusted Mark that he wouldn't have done that, maybe their relationship would have been better. And likewise, maybe if Mark understood why Cecil was doing what he's doing, again, maybe the relationship would have been better. They both have a point. They both fucked up, but you know? And little things like this are why I changed my mind on Invincible. And it's also a big reason of why I think it's such a good show. Season 3, Episode 5 is titled, I Thought This Was Supposed to Be Easy. And I think that's a great summary of what Invincible is about. Growing up, we're always taught that being the good guy is easy. Don't break the law. Be kind. Help others when you can. There's also always a thing about helping old ladies cross the street for some reason. But the thing is, in real life, being the good guy isn't always so simple. Sometimes you just don't know how to do the right thing. Sometimes you're a good person who does a bad thing. Sometimes you make a mess. But just because you made a mess doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're human. Or maybe a half-human, half-alien hybrid. Who knows? So I want to end this on a question. I know I talked about the trolley problem earlier, but I want to talk about it one last time. In this scenario, what makes you the bad guy? Is it pulling the lever and being directly responsible for somebody's death? Or is it not pulling the lever and being indirectly responsible for even more deaths? Or is it being the person who strapped several people to a railroad and then tasked you with pulling the lever? It's the last one. My name is Zoe. Thank you for watching my video about... Gotcha. Yeah. All right, video's over. Bye-bye.